Namaskritya naram chaiva narottama devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shlokir bhaktir bhavatir naishtiki. Reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 19. Tasmad asakta satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hi acharan karma param apnoti purushaha. Tasmad asakta satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hi acharan karma param apnoti purushaha. Tasmat, therefore, asakta, without attachment, satatam, constantly, karyam, as duty, karma, work, samachara, perform, asakta, unattached, he, certainly, acharan, performing, karma, work, param, the supreme, apnoti, achieve, purushaha, a man. Translation. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment, one attains the Supreme. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme is the personality of Godhead for the devotees and liberation for the impersonalist. A person, therefore, acting for Krishna or in Krishna consciousness, under proper guidance and without attachment to the result of the work, is certainly making progress toward the supreme goal of life. Arjuna is told that he should fight in the battle of Kurukshetra for the interest of Krishna because Krishna wanted him to fight. To be a good man or a non-violent man is a personal attachment. But to act on behalf of the Supreme is to act without attachment for the result. That is perfect action of the highest degree, recommended by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. The Vedic rituals, like performing sacrifice, are performed for purification of impious activities that were performed in the field of sense gratification. But action in Krishna consciousness is transcendental to the reactions of good or evil work. A Krishna conscious person has no attachment for the results, but acts on behalf of Krishna alone. He engages in all kinds of activities, but is completely non-attached. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamaiham Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatamritam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhamritam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantha Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. It's so nice to be able to spend some time reading Bhagavad Gita with all of you and discussing with all of you. Thank you for all attending and for chanting and really purifying my room and my ears with your beautiful chanting. I also would like to, before I start my class, offer my respects to Aradhana Mataji, whose beautiful stories on YouTube have helped me prepare for this class. So thank you to her, and thank you to Sameshwar Prabhuji for giving me this opportunity to study and to prepare something for this class. So we see in the previous verses, we see that Lord Krishna has spoken to Arjuna about the different types of sacrifices. So that's been the main part of this first section of chapter 3. Why we do sacrifice, how to do sacrifice, and for whom we do sacrifice, and of course, for the satisfaction of Vishnu. So we have touched upon all of these subjects on sacrifice, and here we see at the purport, Prabhupada makes this very important point that Vedic rituals are performed for purification of impious activities. But action in Krishna consciousness is transcendental to the reactions of that good or evil work. So here, right now, in these verses 3.18 and 3.19, we are talking about subjects beyond the realm of sense gratification, beyond Vedic rituals. So Krishna consciousness is beyond that, or transcendental to it. So we see in the previous verse, Krishna says that in 3.18, Krishna says that the Atma Santushta, or the people who are beyond the modes of material nature, they don't have to really deal with doing duty or prescribed duties or things like that. Because they're beyond that realm, because they are indifferent to those things. And it might seem very counterintuitive that Krishna is bringing up the point that some part of community is not allowed to do duty, because the entire time we see in chapter 1, Arjuna is trying to find a way how to get away from doing his duty. He sees in front of him all of his family members, all of his friends, his family, his relatives, and he's just imagining all of the worst case scenarios that will happen after this war. And he's trying to find a loophole in all of what Krishna is saying to get out of doing of acting in this war, because he knows that it will cause him immense pain. And that is the point that Srila Prabhupada is making in this purport. He says, and I quote, "To be a good man or a non-violent man is a personal attachment." So Arjuna knows that it will cause him great, immense pain to act in this war. But Srila Prabhupada says, to act on behalf of the Supreme is to act without attachment for the result. So we see here that if Arjuna was not to do the war, that would be going against the will of Krishna. That would be a personal attachment. But to act on the behalf of the Supreme, to act as a nimitta matram, as an instrument for the Krishna, without attachment, that would be the highest form of dharma. That would be the highest, most perfect way for Arjuna to go on in this war. And we see this, and I personally see this loophole throughout my life. When we're trying to, for me at least, I'm always looking for gain or loss. So in this material world, we're all looking for like gain or loss or give and take. And because we are obligated to people, to society, to things, that's why we are, attached to those things. And in my life, I see that expand through my schoolwork. I go to school, I study hard to get good grades. And with those good grades, I hope to secure an internship. And with that internship, I hope to secure a job. And with that job, I hope to secure money. With that money, I hope to secure a house. So it's a constant loop, a never-ending loop of give and take, gain or loss. And simply, materially speaking, it's also become very harmful to be in that loop, because you're constantly only looking out for yourself. You're only looking out, as Prabhupada says, as for your own personal attachment, for your own person. You're not looking out for anyone else. So this very self-driven, selfish motive that we see in the living entity expands in this way. But Krishna is making the point in the previous verse that these Atma Santushta, they are exempt from doing their duty, their prescribed duty, not because of any other reason, but because they are indifferent. They themselves are indifferent to the good or bad reactions of that duty. So if they are supposed to do their duty, they will do it. If they're not supposed to do that duty, they are not doing it. So they're not attached to doing it or not doing it. So if they were put into a situation like Arjuna, he is a self-realized soul. We all know that. If he is put into a situation of going into war, then he will gladly take it because he is acting on the behalf of the Supreme, because he is Atma Santushta, because he is fully tasting the nectar of Lord Krishna's pastimes and glories. So he's indifferent to those things. So here Arjuna, although he is, of course, Atma Santushta, he represents all of us. He represents all of us. So I see this example also in my own life also. I remember once Lakshmi Muni Mataji, she came to our house and she told me, and she gave me the instruction that I need to study very hard in school. And at first I thought that's a very odd instruction to get, that I need to study very hard and I need to become a good doctor and things like that. She was like, you should study very hard. You should do this really well. Just focus everything on your studies right now. And I thought that was a very interesting instruction to give me. But the more I thought about it and the more she spoke, I realized that the inner meaning of that was the more we enable ourselves in our own duties, in our own skills, our own talents, then we are better able to serve Krishna. We are better able to give to Krishna's devotees. And she was speaking about specifically how she wanted me to become a doctor so I could take care of the older Prabhupada disciples, all the disciples who are getting a little older. Who will take care of us? She asked me. And I see that how important now it is that although there are many people who are Atma Santushta, I am not there. So my duty is, even as a devotee, my duty is to encourage myself and make myself more adequate and more proficient in my skills and talents so I can give to the community, I can give to Krishna. And of course, Krishna is always more happy when he sees his devotees happy. So by serving the devotees, I will make Krishna happy. So those are just some examples from my own life on how I feel this verse is expanded into my own life. So this verse we see over here, I did a little bit of research and I tried to condense this entire verse into one formula for all of you. The formula is, do your duty without attachment. So we're subtracting our attachment to that duty. But then we are adding devotion to Krishna. And what do we get at the end? We get Param Apnoti Purushaha. We get Param, meaning the supreme, Apnoti, achieves, Purushaha, a man. Any man can achieve the supreme destination of Lord Krishna simply by this process of do your duty minus attachment plus devotion. So let's dive in. So we can do our duty. So everyone has their own prescribed duty. For me, it might be to a student. For my mom, it might be to be a wonderful mom, to go to work. For my dad, it also might be to go to work. And we do our duty, but we do it, and this is the key, without attachment. So I gave you some examples of my own life where I feel I got too attached to the result of, getting good grades, just getting an internship, getting a job, all of this very, very attachment to all of the results. But if we step back and we detach, not only materially do I feel a lot more calm and peaceful, but also by detaching, then we give step to the next and most important part of anything in our devotional life, which is devotion. So we have do your duty minus attachment and plus devotion. So devotion is a secret ingredient which makes everything in our life beautiful. When we have that mood of service to Krishna, not just, we see this beautiful picture of a Mataji giving arti to her beloved Gopal. And it's not simply that she is just waving some fire in front of her deity. She's doing it with some devotion. And that devotion is truly appealing to Krishna. And it's also truly appealing to us because we are also naturally loving beings, as of course, Radhana Swami Maharaj always likes to say, to love and to be loved is the most genuine and most internal desire of every living entity. And what do we get in the end of this entire process? We get Krishna. Param apnoti purushaha. We achieve the supreme destination of Krishna. And Prabhupada likes to say often, quote often, that a person in Krishna consciousness, he's already living in Vaikuntha. He's already in the spiritual world. I see my mom has pointed out something. Duty, attachment, and devotion, DAD. It spells out dad. And so this acronym DAD, it will help us get to the supreme dad or the supreme father, who is Krishna. So thank you for that wonderful message. I'm going to put it in the chat so everyone can see. So that's very beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Prince Surabhi Mataji. So I have a little bit of a story I would like to present to all of you. I also give all credit to Aradhana Mataji on YouTube, who I've heard it from. It was such a beautiful story, so I have to share it with you. I had never heard it before, but maybe you have. But it's beautiful, so I'll share it, and it goes well with this verse. So once, this is the story of a great, rich merchant. And this merchant, he has everything you can imagine. He has all the land you can imagine, all the cows you can imagine, all the wealth you can imagine, everything you can imagine he has. He's the wealthiest person practically ever. And he's a very wealthy man. And he's getting a little old. He's thinking, oh, I think my time may be coming, my time might be wrapping up. So, the call from above might be coming. So I really need to delegate responsibility. I have such big land. I have such big treasury. I need to do something. And this man, he has 4 sons and 4 daughter-in-laws. And he decides, I need to delegate the responsibility of this entire place within my 4 daughter-in-laws, because I know that they will handle it well. I am sure that they can do it. So he's thinking, how can I figure out a way to delegate the responsibility of this entire land to my 4 daughter-in-laws? So he's thinking, he comes up with a plan. So he calls all of his daughters to the veranda. He's sitting on the veranda, and he calls all his daughter-in-laws to his 4 daughter-in-laws. He calls them over, and he takes out a bag of rice. And from that bag of rice, he gives 5 grains, 5 grains, 5 grains, 5 grains to the 4 daughter-in-laws. And he delegates. He tells them, "I'll give you 5 grains of wheat. So I'm giving you 5 grains of wheat. You can do whatever you like with these 5 grains of wheat. But the thing is, I would like you to keep these 5 grains of wheat, and at the end of 5 years, I'll call you back and I'll ask for these 5 grains of wheat." And so the daughter-in-laws are initially puzzled, like, what is this old man asking? 5 grains of wheat? What are we supposed to do with this? And so he says, you decide what you do with it. That's none of my business. Just after 5 years, you come back and we will see what everyone has come up with. So this is the story of 5 grains of wheat. So the 4th daughter-in-law, so the youngest daughter-in-law, she goes and she's like, what is this old man saying? What could possibly, we have so much land. Why is he giving me these 5 grains of wheat? Why does he need these 5 grains of wheat? I can give him all the wheat in the world. So much grain we have in the storehouse. Why is he giving me these 5 grains of wheat? We have so much. And so what she does, she just throws them behind her. She just lets them go. What is this old man saying? He'll probably die off before 5 years is over. He'll probably forget. There's no trust in what he's saying. So she had no faith in the words of her father-in-law. So the next thing that the next daughter-in-law does, so let's see what the next daughter-in-law does. She is she looks at the grains and is like, similar to the fourth daughter, she's like, what can we do with these 5 grains of wheat? Why is he giving me these 5 grains of wheat? Okay, well, it's better not to put it to waste. And this is what she does. She plops them in her mouth and she just swallows them and eats them up. Nice snack of the day, 5 grains of wheat. And she says, anyway, just like the fourth daughter-in-law, she says, I'll just pick up some 5 grains of wheat and give that old man at the end of 5 years. He'll probably forget. I don't have any faith. And so the second daughter-in-law, let's see what she does. What she does, she sees this and she's like, whatever these 5 grains of wheat must be, they must be very important to my father-in-law for him to give me these 5 grains of wheat. And so she takes these 5 grains of wheat and she puts them in a nice chest, and she puts that chest behind the altar, so where no one can see them, in a very secret place, so that no one can get to them, no one can find them. So she places it in a very secret place, as it is, just as it is. She just preserves the wheat over there, so no one can find it, in a very secret place. All right, now let's see what the first daughter-in-law does. The first daughter-in-law, she takes this wheat and she thinks for a while. My father-in-law is a very, very wise man. Not only is he very rich, but he's very, very wise. So if he's given me these 5 grains of wheat, there must be something he wants from this. And she asks a very important question to herself that we will ask ourselves later also in this lecture. She asks herself, what can I do that can please my father-in-law the most with these 5 grains of wheat he has given me? So she looks at these 5 grains and she decides, you know what? I'm going to plant these 5 grains of wheat. And so she plants these 5 grains of wheat in her backyard. And she after some thinking for a few days, she decides to plant them, and she makes a plan and she sows them in her backyard. And then after 1 year, they begin to harvest. So there's wheat all over her backyard. But then she doesn't stop there. She takes all of that wheat that she has accumulated from that year's harvest and replants it. And then that harvest, then she takes all of that and replants it and replants it. And by the end, she has so many acres and acres and acres of wheat in her property by simply these 5 grains of wheat. So 5 years have passed. Some of the sisters have forgotten about it, but the old rich merchant, he calls back his 4 daughter-in-laws. So let's see what happens now. So he calls up the 4th daughter-in-law. He calls him up and he says, calls her up and he says, so do you have those grains of wheat that I gave you in the beginning? Do you have them? Can I see them? And so the 4th daughter-in-law, she says, oh, and then she says nothing, and she says, I'll just get it. And she runs to the storeroom and she comes back with 5 grains of wheat, just like, here, her hands are shaking, and she gives it to her father-in-law. And her father-in-law says, this is not the original grains of wheat I had given you. Where are the original? And so she has to tell the truth. Oh, I'm sorry, father-in-law. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what you were saying. I had no faith in what you were saying. I didn't know what plan you had, why these grains of wheat were so important to you. So I just threw it away. And so the rich man is like, all right, no worries, you can go. And so she stands up to the side. Then the rich man asks the 3rd daughter-in-law, do you have the grains of wheat? And her hands are also shaking. She has also run to the storeroom and gotten the grains of wheat. And so she shows the wheat to her father-in-law. And the father-in-law says, this is not the wheat I had given you in the beginning. Where is the original wheat? What did you do with it? And the 3rd daughter-in-law says, oh, I didn't also know what plan you had. I didn't know why this was so important to you. I don't know why you wanted to do this. So you know what I did? I just plopped it in my mouth, and I just had a snack out of those 5 grains of wheat. So again, the father-in-law says, okay, well, all right, no worries. You can stand by the side also. And so he goes over to the second daughter-in-law and he asks, okay, so do you have the grains of wheat that I had given you? And so the second daughter-in-law, she goes into her altar room, she takes out the grains of wheat and she hands it over to her father-in-law. And she says, here it is, as it is, just like we have Bhagavad Gita as it is. She presents the grains of rice as it is to her father-in-law. So there, nothing has changed. We just have these 5 grains of rice. And she said, great, wonderful. I'm so happy that you have the 5 grains of rice. And so finally, the old man approaches his oldest daughter-in-law, his first daughter-in-law, and he asks, what did you do? Do you have the 5 grains of rice? Do you have the 5 grains of rice that I asked you? And the daughter-in-law says, no, I don't have the 5 grains of rice that you had given me. And the old man said, what? You don't have the 5 grains of rice? What did you do with the 5 grains of rice? And so the first daughter-in-law, she takes a pause and she says, I don't have the 5 grains of rice you had originally given me, but I have 5 trucks of that rice you had given me. I have expanded it and multiplied and harvested multiple times. And now, if you want, I can arrange for 5 trucks of wheat to come from my house to your house to arrange for that wheat delivery. And so now the father-in-law is so happy. He's very happy. He congratulates his daughters, and he decides to delegate the work now. So let's hear about the delegation of work that he gives. So he said the first daughter-in-law, the fourth daughter-in-law, she sees that the fourth daughter-in-law, she has no faith in the words of her father. And so this is in the tamaguna. She had no faith in the words of her father. She had the father-in-law. She had no faith. So that falls into the category of tamaguna, of just throwing away the resources that her father-in-law gave her. So based on that, he arranges that the fourth daughter-in-law, that she take part in all the cooking and the cleaning of the house. She said, okay, you can take care of that business. Then for the third daughter-in-law, he tells her, okay, well, you were very narrow-minded. You just ate it. And if people are good at eating, people are also good at cooking. So that's like a saying that if you're good at eating, you're also good at cooking. So she says, okay, you can handle all the cooking in the house. You can engage yourself in feeding the family and all of that work. To the second daughter-in-law, who had preserved all of the 5 grains of rice as it is, he gives her the responsibility of the accounts, all the priorities, all the safes, to manage all the household. Everything would rest on her. So that is action in the mode of sattva, to preserve. And finally, for the first daughter-in-law, he looks at her and he says, my dear, simply by this test of what I gave you, this rice, I see that you have incredible decision-making skills, and you can really expand and multiply my treasury, our home's greatest wealth. So for you, I give you the responsibility to work with all the decision-making in the house, all of the difficult decisions that need to make, all of the treasury, all of the management of resource funds and everything, they will rest on you. And that, my friends, is action in the mode of Vasudeva Sattva. So here we see the gradation of the different modes and how they affect people's actions. Of course, we're not saying that these are simply just people, but we are talking about the activities behind these people. So based on how the daughters had treated these 5 grains of rice, their entire futures were declared. And we see a similar thing happening in our own lives, that based on how we treat our resources, our previous karma, we end up with a new thing, even in our own lives, even in this life, we see that based on what we did, we end up with a different duty, a different responsibility. So these 5 grains, they represent some very important resources that Krishna gives us. So this story is actually an analogy to what Krishna has given us. So the father-in-law in this story represents Krishna, and he has given us these 5 grains, and the daughters represent us. So of course we represent almost all the daughters, because at all different times we have different tendencies in general. So we see that these 5 grains of rice, they represent, 1, our body, mind, and intelligence. So each of us are given a different body, a different mind, and a different intelligence, so a different psychological, physiological body. So we can use that in service of Krishna, or we can't, or we don't. We're also given our individual skills or talents. Some of us might be very good at programming. Some of us might be very good at cooking beautiful meals. Some of us may be very amazing at art. Some of us we're very wonderful at managing. So all of these individual skills and talents, we can also offer that to Krishna. Number 3, we also have each other. So our support systems, my mother, my father, all of you, the devotees, we have each other. So that is also another resource Krishna gives us, a very important resource. Then we also have number 4, and this might be a little tricky. Our prescribed duties is also a resource Krishna gives us. And when I read this and I heard this, it reminded me of something that Amritanand Prabhuji, he spoke about in our Science of the Soul presentation. He said, it's not, if instead of thinking, I have a job, I need to go to work, I need to go to this job. Instead of thinking, I need to, I must, I have to, instead we can say, I get to go to a job, I get to do this service, I get to do this. And simply that change in talking totally shifts our conversation. So that is very useful when we think about it that way, that our prescribed duties are helpful in that way. Finally, we have spiritual resources. So spiritual resources include the devotees, the wonderful prasadam, of course, the wonderful books we have. All of those include spiritual resources, which are giving us spiritual strength to move on. And we can see this example, all of these 5 grains, and how they were fully expanded in Vasudeva Sattva by none other, by Srila Prabhupada. And of course, no lecture can end without an analogy to Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada, he had 1 instruction. So that was his duty. He had simply 1 instruction from his spiritual master to Gauravani Pracharine, to spread the words of Sri Gaura all over the Western Hemisphere. And he took that 1 instruction and he produced so many instructions for us. And he went through with that instruction and expanded it and really fulfilled the mission of his Guru Maharaj. Then he has this 1 body. Although he's only 1 person, is this 1 body, this 1 mind, this 1 intelligence he expanded himself in so many Prabhupada Anugas, in so many disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and in so many different grand disciples of Srila Prabhupada, as we see. So this 1 person has expanded to so many to create ISKCON. Then we have the network. He only had 1 spiritual master, and then he had the small collegiate league of devotees, a very small group. And what did he expand that network group to? He expanded it to the entire International Society for Krishna Consciousness, International Krishna Consciousness Movement. So that is the 3rd grain of rice, each other. Then he also has his individual skills and talents. He was a great businessman, a great in the pharmaceutical company, and he used his skill and talent of expanding and multiplying his business in what? In expanding and multiplying Krishna's business. And finally, his 1 spiritual resource, Srimad Bhagavatam. If you see, we used to have a very small Odia Srimad Bhagavatam in our house, and it's only this small, not by Srila Prabhupada. And then we ordered the ODI Srimad Bhagavatam by Srila Prabhupada, and we saw it's this much. It's so big. So he expanded these few instructions by Sukadeva Goswami, by Lord Krishna, into this humongous book. The 7,000, only 700 verses come up to maybe this much, but he expanded it to so much. So many instructions, so many resources are given to us by Srila Prabhupada. And this is what is often referred to as boiling the milk. So we are expanding and expanding on Srila Prabhupada's work. And that's also our duty. And so I would like to end with this one question. I know I've gotten a little over time. It all starts with one question. What can I do today to please Krishna? So we see in the very beginning of that story that the first daughter-in-law, she started with this question: what can I do to please my father-in-law the most? And she went along and she did it. She thought about it and she did it. So I pose the same question that Srila Prabhupada must have asked himself: what can I do today to please my Guru Maharaj the most? And so I'm posing this question to all of you today, and also to myself. What can I do today to please Krishna the most? So I hope you can, this class was helpful to you and inspired you to ask this question. I also wanted to end with one small quote that is often attributed to Gauragopal Swami, Gauragopal Prabhu. He says, "What Krishna gives us is his gift to us, but what we give Krishna is our gift to him." So it's this exchange of love. So hopefully with that in mind, I'll end today's class. If you have any reflections, if I have missed anything, if you would like to share any of your own realizations, I would love to hear and be inspired by all of you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, that was a wonderful presentation, Surabhi Mataji. Great, wonderful realization, wonderful points, wonderfully presenting the sort of story. You can't say that, but how that completely transformed to Krishna conscious way. Nicely presented. Thank you. Thank you so much. Anybody has any reflections, questions, comments, concerns, corrections?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danda Pranam, Mataji, Danda Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhu. Definitely very good points, and that's what the mission is, right? Spreading the holy name, the word of uh, Krishna, and preaching. So we get a message from devotee for somebody who makes us closer to Krishna consciousness. Of course, a lot of devotees, and then further, like Surabhi Mataji gave us example of how that one of the wisest, I would say, daughter-in-law, she planted the seeds and planted these from the seeds to the again she planted the so she kept replanting and eventually came out a big vast field of knowledge and I'm sorry, big vast field of wheat, and that could be shared. So that is exactly the point I think to be taken today, is to spread the mission, involve ourselves in the holy name and be more Krishna consciousness, and be just talk to people, have them involved, and like I said, that daughter-in-law who came out to be the winner in the situation. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for that wonderful point. I don't think I specifically talked about that, but that's such an important point, that we are not just cultivating knowledge, or as you said, like wheat. We are not just cultivating wheat for
Right.
our own consumption. We are cultivating that knowledge for other people, so that we can share with other people that knowledge. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that Krishna conscious person has no attachment for the result, but acts on behalf of Krishna alone. That's one attains supreme in that way. So that was yesterday Tarun Prabhu was mentioning, right? What is the goal? Yes, this is the goal. Yes, we do, we perform, but without any attachment, but to please Krishna. Wonderful. Anybody else? Everybody, I think, is mesmerized by the story. Everybody was still deep into the how can I become like a first daughter-in-law? You get an instruction, yes, churn it, work on it, how to get a good results out of it. Anything, yes, that's wonderful.
Hare Krishna, Surabhi Mataji. Not only the story, Prabhuji, but the formula she gave in the beginning was,
The dad
I,
formula.
yes, I actually wrote it down. I loved it. Yeah, so that was great to Surabhi. And you're leaving us with this question, that we need to, like dwell on how can we please Krishna? What can we do to please Krishna? So wonderful class, wonderful story. And I loved it. Thank you, Haribol. We learn from you every time you give a class. Thank you, Haribol.
Yeah, that was super. Dad, duty minus attachment plus devotion is equal to dad. So attain supreme dad if you have that. Yeah, that's nice. Nice realizations. This is what it is. Yes, this proves that the hearing and engaging in the devotional service and association, it makes better consciousness, better, purifies our consciousness, and we understand real knowledge. We come to that real knowledge. What is otherwise? It can go all the places. We not come to this understanding. Duty. Many people still does not know what is duty. Many people still does not know what is attachment. They mix up everything. They say, oh, I do this, I do this, I do this. We can see that in this world. If you go and talk to the people and the friends or the colleagues in the office, there are so much things to speak. But at the end of the day, nothing is, and real. I mean, they're just talking about, everybody, it is now what is called the COVID. Otherwise, after the Super Bowl, the next day, the Monday is talking full of Super Bowl, anyway. So yeah, this helps a lot. This helps a lot to understand the real realizations, knowledge, understanding, purpose, objective, goal, so many things. Thank you so much. So we have 5 more minutes. Anybody else has anything to add? You can pick up, Surabhi, the devotees you want to.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask maybe if any devotees they had any thoughts on how what anything maybe we can do today. Like we have 4 hours left in today's day, or maybe 2 hours left. So what can we do today to please Krishna? I can share. So today is Amavasya, and my mom told me today that on the day of Amavasya, chanting during the Sandhya time, during the afternoon time, is especially powerful in our spiritual life, because the Sandhya time is the time where there's the energy is very, what we say, like fragile, very like twilight kind of thing. So chanting during that time is very important. So that's something I did today. I did some kirtan from 6 to 7. I did some chanting. So that's something I did today. Does anyone have any other what we can do today? Any other things we can do today to please Krishna?
Hare Krishna, Surabhi. Thank you so much. Wonderful presentation and wonderful example. So yeah, as a mouse said, I also did like Sandhya time, like chanting and like I did nursing a mantra 108 times, whole family, so that it's good for whole world. So thank you for sharing your experience, and thank you so much for your wonderful class.
Thank you, Mataji, for being this wonderful light for the entire world, not just for our Krishna conscious movement. You're doing this Narsimha thing with your whole family, not just for our Krishna conscious movement, but for everyone. So thank you for increasing the vibration of our world.
It's the effect of our association.
Yes, agreed.
Very good.
Very cool.
Prabhuji, can I, Surabhi, if you don't mind, can I ask Amritanandan Prabhu a question?
Yes, please.
Yes, of course, please.
Prabhuji, this is no, actually, I'm just curious, because he mentioned about the morning that his mom, asked him to share. So, Amritanandan Prabhu, is your mom, did she give this share story time? Is she, that's your mom, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Krishna
right. You know
Devi.
what? Yes, I figured it out because what happened was the other day I heard that, I just heard the introduction. She's from Pune and, Radhanath Swamiji, and something rang a bell. And today I checked it and I just went, I said, I had some time and I was looking back. I wanted to hear her story. And the first thing she did was she was sharing the jewels. That was the first thing. And I said, wow, this is such a coincidence because in the morning, Prabhuji mentioned it, and then she started storytelling. So, and it's amazing. She's 86 years old, and how she is just like using this at this age, like whatever the opportunity, to still serve Krishna. It was so beautiful. I still didn't get to hear the complete story, but I just wanted to confirm, I said, what, this seems to be, I had seen her like a few times, like when you were giving the class, like just a glimpse of it, but just the Pune and the Radhanath Swami, and I'm like, I think this is, and then the jewels, when she started talking about it, completely confirmed it. I said, this is Prabhuji. And you're like, now I know how well you speak, where it's coming from, and all the knowledge that you have. Thank you so much. So I was just, like about how you can use the resources, the opportunities, like it's amazing at her age also, how she's serving Krishna and the community. It's beautiful. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. And convey my thanks to her too. Thank you. There you go.
Yes, actually, we also owe a lot of gratitude. There is one Mataji, she's not here today, Annu Mataji.
She's the one conducting it. Anuradha Mataji.
Anuradha Puri Mataji. She's the one who organizes this. And so now it could come on the Zoom and reach out to many more. Otherwise, she used to do in a building with all the kids and other Matajis and Prabhus where she lives in that society.
Right.
And does the storytelling. Thank you. I'll convey it, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Haribol.
Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful discussions, wonderful association, wonderful topic. Very nice. Anybody else has anything to add? Yes, we can conclude. Jai. Thank you, Surabhi Mataji, for having a wonderful class. Let's thank also Surabhi saying Haribol 3 times. Haribol.
Haribol, Haribol, Haribol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Pay our obeisance to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, saying Vancha Kalpatarubhasya
Vishya
कृपा
Kripa
सिन्धुभ्यो
Siddhanam
पतिना
Pavanebhyo
पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो
Namo
नमो
Namaha
नमः
Namo Namaha.
Krishna Vranda ki
वैष्णववृंद
Vaishnavi
की
Jai.
जय
ki jai.
श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय
Jai.
श्रील
Jai.
Prabhupada
प्रभुपाद
ki
की
jai.
जय
Jai.
और प्रेमानंद हरि हरि बोल
Thank you,
That's
sir.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you Surabhi,
Wonderful
thank
class.
you everyone,
Thank you,
Thank you,
son.
thank you
Surabhi.
for
Hari.
everybody's
So,
association.
Surabhi.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Beautiful
Thank you,
class.
Surabhi.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.